Good morning, students. Let's begin with the poem Or to the West Wind. We begin with the first stanza. O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being. You see, in this first stanza, in this first stanza, in the first line, in the very first phrase, O wild west wind. You see a good example of alliteration, wild west wind. Is that clear? Now see, Shelley addresses the wind, O wild west wind. The address to an inanimate or abstract object is called an apostrophe. And an apostrophe it is a typical quality of an art. Now this is, you see, there are so many literary devices used in the first phrase. O wild west wind, the poet addresses the wind. The wind is abstract, and an address to an abstract object is known as apostrophe. The first literary term is apostrophe. Now we come to the second literary term, that is wild west wind. The same consonant sound is repeated at the beginning of successive words. This is known as alliteration. Now the third thing is that when you address an abstract object, that is wind is an abstract object and you are addressing it, it means you presume that the wind is a human being, and that's why it can listen to what you say, it can hear your voice, and if you assume so, then wind is personified. Is it okay? So three literary terms are used in the first phrase. Number one, apostrophe. Number two, alliteration. And number three, personification. Now see, the wind has been called thou breath of autumn's being. Autumn has been once again, autumn is personified. Autumn is a human being. Okay, sorry. And the exhale or breathing out of that human being, autumn, is what is it? That is the west wind. The west wind comes out of autumn's nose. Is it okay? Thou from whose unseen presence. Now mark the word unseen presence. This is an example of oxymoron. You say that somebody is unseen, but on the other hand say you say that somebody is present. How is it possible that somebody is present and somebody cannot be seen? These two terms are incompatible, and such words are known as oxymoron. That is again a literary device, oxymoron. Unseen presence. Meaning is that the wind is present, but it cannot be seen. What does it mean? It means that wind cannot be seen, but it can only be felt. You always feel the wind. Is it okay? Thou from whose unseen presence the leaves date. This is a typical quality of Shelley. That you see that leaves is a noun, dad is an adjective, and he puts the adjective after the noun. For understanding the meaning of this phrase, you just bring dad before leaves. It means the dad leaves. That means dried leaves. Okay? Are driven. Driven means scattered. Because of the unseen presence of the west wind, the dead leaves are scattered like ghosts from an enchanted flame. And here he compares the scattering of the dead leaves with an enchanter who drives away evil spirits. Have you got the point? Now, the west wind is compared with the enchanter, and dead leaves are compared with the ghosts. Okay? What is the literary device used here? The literary device used here is, simile. There is a good use of simile. You see, like. When like is there or as is there, the literary device is simile. Is it okay? So what is the meaning of the three lines? First three lines. The poet addresses the west wind, calling it wild, uncontrollable. And he says that you are the exhale or breathing out of autumn. Because of your unseen presence, the dead leaves are scattered in the same way as an enchanter or a magician drives away evil spirits. Is it okay? Now we come to the next stranger. Yellow and black and pale. These are the different colors of leaves. Yellow and black and pale and hectic red. These are the different colors of leaves. Some leaves are yellow, some leaves are black, some leaves are pale, some leaves are hectic red, hectic unhealthy because of some disease. Leaves turn red. Okay? These are the different colors of dead leaves, but the point to be noted is that the green is not mentioned here. It means that wasteland does not disturb, does not create any problem, hurdle, barrier for green leaves. Right? These green leaves are again compared with pestilence stricken multitude. But the comparison is implied, and such a comparison is known as metaphor. Then the literary device used here is metaphor. Pestilence stricken multitudes. Pestilence, that is an infectious disease just like plague. Stricken, affected. Multitudes, crowd. These dead leaves are like a crowd suffering from some infectious disease, and they are scattered with the power of the wind. O thou who chariotest to the dark wintry bed the winged seeds. O thou, again apostrophe, thou means you. You, who is it? You means the west wind. O west wind, who chariotest means carries, who carries to their dark wintry bed the winged seeds. Here you see dark wintry bed. Mark three important words. Dark. Dark means underground. Wintry means where they remain during the winter season. Bed, earth. The west wind carries the winged seeds to their dark wintry bed. It means the west wind carries the winged seeds and deposits them underground where they remain during the winter season. Now the point is that why does the poet use the word winged for seeds? Winged is an adjective. Winged means somebody or something which has wings. Do you think there are seeds? There are seeds which have wings. Seeds do not have wings, and therefore it's an example of transferred epithet because the wind has wings. With the help of these invisible wings, the wind flies from here and there, from here to there. Is that right? Now see, some critics say that some seeds have wings, just like the seed of oak. You see, there are, oak or cotton. These are the seeds which have wings with them. And there the seeds remain within its grave until thine aged sister of the spring shall blow her clarion over the dreaming earth. And these seeds remain underground. Within its grave means underground up to what time? Up to the time when there is spring season and the sister of west wind, that is thine azure sister. Azure means blue. Blue sister of the spring, that is Zephyrs. Zephyrs is the wind that blows in spring. Zephyrs start blowing her clarion, clarion means trumpet, over the dreaming earth. Dreaming means sleeping earth. The poet says these seeds remain underground up to the time when there is spring and the spring wind starts blowing, and this creates sonorous music just like a trumpet over the sleeping earth and filled with living hues and odors plain and hill. Because of the blowing of the spring wind, the earth is filled with living hues. Hues means colors. Different type of flowers start blooming. And odors means a smell, sweet smell. The spring wind fills all the earth with colorful flowers and sweet smell all around the earth, whether it is plains or it is hills. Is that okay? Now, in the parenthesis, a sentence is given, driving sweet birds like flocks to feed in air. The west wind drives sweet birds out of the, out of the plants, just like flocks to feed, just like a shepherd starts, a shepherd opens the gate of his, pen to for the exit of the flock to feed in air. That's very complicated imagery, you will have to understand it. Now see, uh, if you can imagine how a shepherd opens the gate of his pen and the sheep comes out, sheep come out of it. He doesn't make any effort for the sheep to come out. In the same way, as soon as the spring wind starts blowing, the spring wind doesn't make any conscious effort to bring out the birds out of the plants. Then again, it is a simile. The spring wind is compared with the shepherd, and the sheep is compared with the birds. Is it okay? Now, wild spirit. Again, the poet says that the west wind is a wild spirit. Wild means uncontrollable spirit, which art moving everywhere. ART. This art is not kala in Hindi. This art, ARE, R. When thou is the subject, we use art instead of R. Which are moving everywhere. That is, the west wind is moving everywhere. Destroyer and preserver. The poet says that the west wind is a destroyer and the west wind is also a preserver. Here or here. Is it okay? This is all about the first stanza. We will analyze once again the salient literary features in the first stanza in the next lecture. Thank you.